Welcome back, guys, to For the Good. This is episode 13.5/14. Last episode, we had really good things to share with you guys, but sadly, our audio got really, really messed up. And Stevie and I were kind of trying to decide, do we post it or do we not post it? And I figured, maybe if we got it on speakers and things like that, it could come through. But it failed really hard. But we think we had a lot of stuff that we wanted to share with you guys. So we're going to build off and retouch on some things that we talked about, some of the main points, and kind of also build off of that a little bit. So we're excited, and we're going to call this one Your Body is a Temple Part 2. So it's going to kind of be going over some of the stuff you guys might have not seen in the last episode, addressing some comments that we got. Yes, we got some comments on our last video, and so we're going to be addressing that. And then also we're just going to be talking about where we're at in our fitness journey, and maybe we can talk about some ways we had it skewed and some ways that we're still fighting today to make sure we're staying on the right path. But without further ado, this is my co-host, Stevie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I noticed you're wearing a certain sweater right now.
Go Pats.
Go Pats. We're in the Super Bowl. Drake May pulled through. And if you guys go back, you actually predicted Patriots and Seahawks.
Yeah.
I said Patriots and 49ers, so I got 50% right. But Stevie was spot on with the Patriots and Seahawks.
You owe me $50. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. It's a great year for New England. I heard the Celtics are looking pretty good too. So it's a great year for Boston/New England sports. And we also 100% have the best fan base. That's just known worldwide. And so without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. And a lot of the scripture that we touched on and talked about last time was talking about how our body is not our own.
Yeah.
And so the Bible says that our body is not our own and that we were bought with a price, right? And that price that we were bought with was the sacrifice of Jesus. And so we talked about how because our body is not our own, that means that we can't just sit around and allow ourselves to, kind of get unhealthy or get into a bad state. And part of the reason why is not necessarily because we're trying to be in the most athletic peak shape, right? But it's because it actually inhibits our call. And inhibiting our call allows us to do less work for the kingdom of God. And so the reason that we have to take care of our body is because our body is not our own. Now, what are some ways that you think maybe, when we're talking about fitness and we take a verse like our body is not our own, we were bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies, right? Honor him with your heart, with your soul, and your mind, and your strength. But the Bible also says to honor him with your bodies. So what are some ways you think we can misconstrue that honoring God with your body, maybe on one side of the extreme and also the other side of an extreme?
I think that some of the things we talked about last week were kind of like starting to idolize your health.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can look like having like health anxiety. That's like a term now, where you're kind of just like always scared that there's something else wrong with you. And so you're trying to like do everything in your power to be like the healthiest version that you can, which kind of goes along the lines of what you were saying about trying to be like the most fit you can be. I think they are a little different though, because I think with like the health anxiety, that is sort of not trusting God with your health, even though you might not realize it. And at times that's something that I have even fallen into, just like kind of looking into things. Like I'll have some small symptoms of something silly, and then when I look it up, Google tells me like all these crazy things, and then I start worrying. But instead of trying to rely on my own strength and what I can do, sometimes I fail to trust God in those moments, and I think that can be a common thing. So I think that is like a major way right now that like treating our body as a temple can get misconstrued. but then I also think that some people take that to the opposite extreme, where they kind of just are like, oh, well, I feel like eating this, or I feel like doing this, so I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I also fall into that trap,
Right.
because sometimes I eat too many Oreos when I shouldn't.
Right. And it's funny because there's a really healthy in between where, you know, you can use something like lifting or working, and for some people it'll be harder. Like, for example, for me, because some people will be naturally into running or lifting, and we're not trying to communicate that that's wrong by any means. But what we are trying to communicate is when that becomes the sole center of your identity. Like, we know some people who their identity is the gym. And I'm sure you guys all know somebody like this, where it's taken to such an extreme where you go out to dinner and they're bringing their own packaged meals of like chicken and broccoli and rice, or everything that they speak about centers around going to the gym, running, lifting weights. That's their entire life and their identity.
Yeah.
This is so much more of a supplementary thing, where your primary thing should be coming from your relationship with God. So you should always be focusing more on godliness and growing your spiritual health than you are your physical health. And for someone like me, that's actually something I struggle with, because fitness is something that I naturally enjoy. I enjoy it because I enjoy video games. And what I mean by that is video games is so awesome because you add input onto the controller and you get a result on the screen. Now, the thing about video games is it kind of ruins your dopamine receptors, and it ruins your kind of tolerance for instant gratification, or delayed gratification, I should say. Increases your want for instant gratification. Whereas something like fitness is, if I have a pain, or if I have, say, I want to jump higher, or I want to be able to do more push-ups, something like that, direct input in the gym leads to a result. And so I love it for that, but I can often tend to find myself putting way more time and energy into the physical side of things, and it can trump the spiritual growth and the spiritual side of things. And so I would say to you, because a lot of the times when we think in the Bible, we think about idols, we think about wooden statues or golden shrines that, you know, certain entities were behind that, but they would bow down and worship before that. Although that is still present in some religions and cultures, what would you say more for American, especially American Christians, idolism or idols look like?
I think the biggest one is ourselves.
Right.
I think that the term body image comes up when I think of that. And I actually just had this conversation with my youth group girls this past week. We talked about body image, and hearing all that they had to say was really interesting to me, but also kind of sad, because it definitely came with like a negative connotation, which made me sad. And we tried to talk about how like God made everyone unique and perfect exactly as they are, and I think that's something that we all need to remind ourselves of at times, because I think that nobody just has this perfect body image.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest, I don't really like that term, because I do think it either comes with a sense of pride or a sense of negativity. And so I think kind of like loving the body that God created us to worship him with would be a better way to think about it, because it's very easy to start worshiping your own body instead of worshiping the one who created your body.
Yes.
And so I think that would be the biggest idol, and then I think other people would be the second biggest idol. I think first we idolize ourselves, and it could be simultaneous. Like, it could be while doing that you idolize other people. I know when sometimes we watch like fitness influencers, it can be easy to be like, oh, like I really want to be like that person. For a number of reasons, right? I mean, it doesn't even have to be fitness influencers. It can be influencers in general. And some of the things, it's not bad to want to be like certain aspects, right? Like if somebody's super disciplined, that's great. That's something that you can work on, definitely. I know sometimes I feel that way about a lot of Christian influencers, like young women that I follow on social media. But I think that social media is like the biggest reason for both of those idolatry examples.
Right.
Because I think it kind of like puts bodies in the spotlight for the fleshly value and not for the value that God actually made us for.
Exactly.
And I think it's important to remember that our flesh is going to stay here on earth.
Right.
And so as much as we should try to honor God with our bodies and be the best that we can be, that doesn't mean like that's all that matters. I think maybe a good way to say it would be that you can't take your body with you, but you can help other people come with you. So it should be more important for you to try to lead other people to Christ than to be so focused on your own body and your own self.
Yeah, and kind of a way to think about idolatry in today's day and age, because the olden times it looked more like bowing down to statues, is really anything that takes the primary spot of where God is supposed to be in your life. So anything that comes before God in your own personal life is actually what idolatry is. And so, you know, kind of like to answer that question, what does idolatry look like today? It's really, it doesn't have to be bowing down to something. It's like you said, a lot of the times it's our body or our sexuality or our image, the way we come off to people. And all that are just things that can take the place of where God is supposed to be in our life. So an easy, simple way for us to understand what idolatry is in our modern environment is something that is coming before God and taking precedence over God where he's supposed to be in your life. Because even someone like Paul writes in 1 Timothy 4:8 that even physical working out, exercising, physical health is of some importance, right? So he's not shooing that to the side, but he does emphasize that spiritual health and godliness is the way he puts it. Pursuing godliness or righteousness is important for all things. And the reason being, and what we kind of mentioned a little bit in last week's episode, was they had to be walking miles and miles and miles and miles and miles to share the word. And so I think more now than ever, especially in today's day and age, we can have an emphasis on making sure we are trying to be physical, exercising, putting energy out, working our body, because we really lack that. And I think as a society, there's a very small percent of people who are so into fitness that they're starting to idolize their body more, as they're not understanding that they're falling into gluttony. And that's actually something we didn't talk about last podcast, which the Bible does point as a sin. The Bible points gluttony and laziness both as sins. And so gluttony is just overindulging. Like, for example, if you have one or two pieces of pizza and it tastes good, that's great. And what we're preaching is don't cut that out. That's healthy moderation. But when you can't have the discipline or self-control and you finish the entire pizza yourself, that's gluttonous. That's eating in excess. And so that's when it becomes an unhealthy habit that is not treating our body, which the Bible describes as the temple for the Holy Spirit to reside in, like we should. And so that's just something that I wanted to kind of bring up, was, you know, focusing on making sure that in today's day and age where we really do struggle with gluttony and laziness, with social media, we talked about DoorDash, all these avenues where we don't even have to move anymore. We're almost going towards the Wall-E stereotype. I actually would encourage people to go back and watch that movie, because it's literally artificial intelligence serving us, and everything we do is from a chair. And we never get up from that chair. And so artificial intelligence is driving the ship that they're on. It's doing all the work, cleaning up through the form of robots. And then humans' only goal and all they have to do is order food in a chair. And so that's kind of the way I feel we're more going towards, rather than overemphasizing, you know. But when you do take it seriously, there definitely is a temptation, especially for a lot of people who start to really enjoy fitness, of being like, watch this one creator, he has this physique or she has this physique that I really want, and my main driving goal goes, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the trap, is when it comes physical and vain.
Mm-hmm.
The trap there is, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that honestly we just lack discipline so much in our modern society, and I don't think that's by accident. I think that the devil has set us up to intentionally be failing.
Right.
And I think that when I say discipline, I don't necessarily mean like you lift weights in the gym 6 days a week. I mean in anything, really.
Right.
And I think that we can both list a number of things that we could be more disciplined about, just because of like, kind of like you're saying, like ease.
Right.
Like it's easy for us to not be disciplined. And I think that goes for a lot of people. And so I think that's like a huge thing that we could focus on, is being more disciplined. But going back to what you were saying too before about like kind of turning it into, we want to look like other people. I think we also all really struggle with selfishness too.
Yeah.
And kind of like a sense of pride and like kind of thinking like we deserve to look like that and whatever. But I don't think we think of our bodies as we're a vessel to share God's word.
Right.
We think of our bodies as like, oh, I want other people to think this of me, and I want other people to be like, wow, they're so fit, and like, you know what I mean? And so something that I've been trying to like remind myself of daily is, if someone like just meets me and they don't know me, what do I want them to like remember about me? And, you know, honestly, I am really self-conscious even still. That's something that I'm working on. And so it used to be caring about like, oh, do they think I like fit in, or do they think I was like nice enough and whatever. But now I kind of have the mindset of like, did I represent Jesus well?
Right.
And so I think that is more what we should be focusing on, instead of like our physical appearance or even some like health aspects. I think that God is with us even when we are struggling with certain things, whether that be like actual like diagnoses or like little things that we say like, oh, we're not healthy about certain stuff.
Exactly.
And so sometimes I think that God actually has stuff happen in our lives as lessons. And so I think going about our daily lives with that at the top of our mind, like how am I representing Christ to people, should be the most important thing.
Right. And something that I wanted to add to that is, a lot of the times it's selfishness and pride, but also it reveals a deep-seated insecurity too. Because if we're looking to pursue a certain image, a lot of the times that is coming from a hurt that you felt or experienced, that you think an appearance, or aka the way that people view you or think about you would fix. And the reason why that's so shallow and why that's so empty is because God really designed it to be, hey, Adam and Eve were workers in the garden, and they ate amazing food that actually gave them life. So they were in good shape, but they were finding their fulfillment from their closeness and community with God. So they were always meant to be in good shape and use these amazing bodies that God designed. That was always the purpose. Now, obviously, like you said, with diagnoses and disabilities and disorders and things like that, that's a result of the fall and sin entering this world. But the main point that I'm really trying to get at is chasing that image because we're so worrying about how people are going to view us or what they're going to think about us will never actually fill that void. and that insecurity. And, you know, we almost conjure up these thoughts of like, if I just looked like this, or if I got this physique, or if there's a community that's coming up, and you guys are probably going to laugh. You're going to think it's stupid, but this is something that our generation of kids, and especially a few years younger, like teenagers, are legitimately having this be forced on them, is like looks maxing, where they're like talking about smashing your face with a hammer so that it makes your jawline come in more prominent. It's called Wolf's Law, where it says, have you ever heard if you broke a bone it grows back stronger?
Yeah.
So they talk about creating micro fractures in your cheekbones and your jaw so that they repair thicker and stronger. So you change the facial structure that you were born with, that you really can't change through exercise, so that you get a more prominent jawline and higher set cheekbones. And so this is what is being pushed on us, and this is what is being hailed as the influence in our generation in society. So really all that's getting at is that saying that that person has such insecurity that only a relationship with Christ could fulfill. And so the only way that we could ever get out of that trap, because a lot of the times having poor health is a reflection. It's a, what's that word? When it's two things at the same time. There's a word for it. There's a term for it. But it's two things at the same time that go against each other, and both are true. I don't know what the word for that is. But people with poor health oftentimes have a reflection of having poor self-image. Because, and what I mean by that more is a lack of a fulfillment in their relationship with Christ, which the modern way to say that is self-image. But also people with better physical health tend to have better self-image. But with that is where it comes 2 and 2, because oftentimes people who have the most amazing physiques and amazing outward appearance oftentimes have the least self-image, because they're trying to work through their body and their physique and their face and their clothes and their hair, proving themselves worthy of what? The admiration of people that die just like that. The same people who to your face will be like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing and I want to ride with you now that you're all famous and you look good and you work out and blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you turn away, they're trashing about how much of an arrogant jerk you are, you know? So everyone knows that never truly finds fulfillment. But branching off of that can really only come from a relationship with Christ. Branching off of that, because I don't want this to kind of go too long, some practical tips that we can give people. And this is also the addressing the comments. Now watch. I want to make like a trailer for this. So let's do a really clickbait thing for the trailer that I'm going to clip to.
Okay.
3, 2,
what are you doing?
1. Watch, ready? Stevie.
Yeah.
We received comments on last episode, and we're going to have to address them. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. I can't keep a straight face. Oh, it's going to be so good, though. All right. So one of the comments was talking about some of the foods and diet that I've transitioned to. And this was a great comment. So real quick before we get into that, one of the things we suggested and recommended was changing one thing at a time. Changing one meal, adding in one glass of water, adding in a 5-minute walk in the morning to get sunlight, or a 5-minute walk after you eat, or just moving, right? Exerting force, and then building from there. Maybe that 5-minute walk turns into a 30-minute walk. Maybe that 30-minute walk turns into a day in the gym. Maybe that day in the gym turns into 3 days a week, and the other days you're going on walks in nature, right? So you start little and you build. You change one meal, then that one meal becomes 2 meals, right? And so it looks like that. And off of that, I spoke about how God created and gave us everything on this earth that we need to heal and to have health. Now, obviously, with the sin aspect, there are things like disorders and diseases that at the end of the day, we probably can't reverse out through that. But a lot of the things, 99% of the things that we struggle with today are a result of poor sleep, poor exercise, and poor diet. Mm-hmm. And so the comment was, how can you know which ones are spoofs, which are fake, mislabeling, or placebo?
Yeah.
And I think a great answer is this. So a lot of the times the way that my mind works is if there's a guy who's overweight with bad knees, yet he has an PhD in knee surgery, then I'm going to go, that's not the guy I'm getting knee advice from.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a guy who has unorthodox methods, but he has replacement knees and he's able to do the splits and dunk and do crazy stuff when he was told he was never able to walk again, I will always go to that guy for advice.
Yeah.
The same thing happens. So it does require some research. And what I mean by that is when you look at the food that healthy people, like when you do research and you look up what are some healthy foods and you see a correlation of, oh, this person always says get grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
And then you go into a store and you see grass-fed beef. Maybe I should do that because this healthy person says it's good, this healthy person says it's good, this fat doctor says it's bad. Right. So I'm going to go with the healthy people who aren't taking medication instead of the overweight doctor who relies on medication telling me that what the other people who are physically and metabolically healthy are offering is wrong.
Yeah.
And so I would say simple thing, this is kind of what my diet looks like. So I'm going full day in the life vlog diet right here.
All right.
It consists of eggs in the morning with some mozzarella cheese I'll throw on there.
What kind of eggs though?
So this is I'll give a little bit of science behind this. There's a few different types of eggs. There's just the regular grade A eggs that you see. To be completely honest, those are fine.
Wait,
but
can I say
they're not the
something?
highest quality. Just let me okay, go ahead.
I did a research project on this in 8th grade and I found out that eggs can be on the grocery store shelf for like 3 to 4 months.
Right.
Before you actually are buying them.
Yep.
And who knows how long they were like sitting in the truck or in a warehouse somewhere before that.
Right. And so that's nasty. But offering that, even having that is better than what people are having, right? And so
yes,
if you're going towards processed packaged foods, once again, I'm just basing it completely off of stuff that has worked, and this is stuff that has worked. And so if people are having high processed, high packaged, high sugary foods, for example, Pop-Tart, pancakes, super high in carbs,
but it's
super
so
high
yummy.
in sugar, super high processed, super packaged, all of these things, that's going to be bad for you. So when it comes down to eggs, you have the regular eggs that are grade A eggs. Now, if you're on a budget and that's what you can afford, that's totally fine. Go and buy the bulk versions of them, and you have so many eggs. I've gotten to a point where when I'm trying to cut calories, I have around 4 eggs a day. And when I'm trying to be a little bit, maybe I'm on a phase where I'm trying to get a little bit stronger in the gym. Instead of, cut down on calories, I'll have 6 eggs a day. And they go, Vinny, what about cholesterol? What about your HDL and your LDL cholesterol? I'm not a doctor. Always seek out doctor advice when you're doing this. But I will say this. Cholesterol is a necessary thing that people need. Cholesterol is something that you need to have, and it only becomes dangerous when your ratio of metabolic health to higher cholesterol is off. So if your cholesterol is raised, number one, you can think of HDL as good cholesterol and LDL as bad. And the reason is because it's really only the oxidized LDL cholesterol that leads to heart attacks. And usually a target marker of that is high LDL cholesterol. But HDL cholesterol is good. So if that's higher, that's not a bad sign. That's something that we've been misinformed. And people go, don't eat eggs. If you eat eggs, it's going to raise your cholesterol. Those are the people who are unhealthy, right?
Well, actually, I kind of disagree with you. I think don't seek doctors' advice. I think that if it's something that God created
right.
specifically for us,
right.
like eggs,
right.
that come directly from a chicken, just eat it.
Right. So if your concern is like, hey, they've told me that it'll lead to high cholesterol, guys, like, okay, it's eggs from an animal. And the other option is super high processed, high sugar, high carbs. So you're telling me you're going to go away from the thing that has vitamin A, vitamin K, biotin, protein, all the essential amino acids that you need, and this one beautiful thing from God. And a doctor goes, if you eat that on a daily basis, you're going to be unhealthy and have high cholesterol. You're not going to need medicine, and you're going to be healthier if you fix your diet and your sleep and your hydration and your exercise routine. 90 times out of 10, you're 100. You're going to fix that. But what I'm saying is, and what I'm trying to offer as a solution is, just think about it. Protein, amino acids, and vitamins, you're really not going to have, unless you're eating over 12 a day, you're not going to have an issue with that. And when it comes down to the type of eggs, like you said, if your budget, you have a lot of wiggle room in your budget. Like, for example, I get $4.70 for a dozen if I'm not having ones that you have, because Stevie actually has her own chickens, which is what I would say is the absolute best.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say just start a little homestead.
Even if it's
and
just chickens.
Get a couple chickens.
Right.
And boom.
That is the absolute best, because you can control what they're eating. You can control how they come out. You see how much space they get to roam. A lot of the time, Stevies are only cooped up through certain points in the day or at night. Whereas a lot of the times, and this is what I was going to get into with grade A eggs, you have grade A eggs, you have cage-free eggs, you have free range, and then you have pasture raised.
Yeah.
So the difference between that is the amount of space that each chicken gets. And so grade A, they get the least amount of space, which causes a higher amount of cortisol, which changes the makeup of the egg.
And they get the food that they eat is different
less
too.
Nutrient. So it's less nutrient dense.
And you also don't know like what's in that food. Like they could be
Exactly.
getting antibiotics and stuff, and you have no clue.
But it's 100% better than a Pop-Tart or pancakes or muffins, right? And so, although it's not the
depends if it's a homemade Pop-Tart, pancake, or muffin.
Although it's not the ideal choice, it's 10 times better. It's kind of that saying, don't let perfection be the enemy of great or good. And so then the next step up would be cage free. You get like 5 cubic feet per chicken. You guys can tell I do a lot of research into this kind of thing.
Is that actually true?
And then the next one is free range, which is the difference between free range and pasture raised are so small. But if you're putting them on a scale, the best one you can get is pasture raised. And so outside of like homestead, your own chickens. And so I shop at Aldi's. This is really practical advice for people. I shop at Aldi's. You can also go to Walmart. They'll just be a little bit more expensive at Walmart or Market 32 or places like that. And Aldi's has $4.69 for a dozen of pasture raised eggs. So I get about 2 dozens of that, and like I said, I have about 4 a day, and I add a little bit of mozzarella in there. I just get shredded low fat mozzarella cheese that I throw over the top, about half a cup of that for the protein, for healthy fats, because cheese, when eaten in moderation, once again, another lie, is actually a good source of healthy fats, because our body also needs fat. And if you look at the people who are in the most greatest shape, they literally factor in foods to raise their levels of healthy fat. Yet they look crazy. And so that's where we said, make sure that's not your driving motivation. But if you are looking for health, you can test it based off of if people are putting their money where their mouth is, right? And so then outside of that, so that's about $4, and that lasts me 3 days. So $8 worth of eggs lasts me an entire week, and an entire week. But the good news within that is, because I have Stevie's help, she'll give me some eggs, a dozen or 2 dozen here or there. And what's really crazy is, if you have your own eggs, even get pasture raised, the best that the store offers, the farm raised ones that you hatch yourself are so much, the yolk is so much more orange, and a deeper orange, than even pasture raised. Now, if you do pasture raised to grade A, grade A will be like this color, and pasture raised will be like this color. Now, if you did grade A to farm, it looks like a completely different type of food. So there is a difference, but once again, some places like Costco and BJ's, you can get grade A, like 80 eggs at a time for like super cheap. So I would say buy the food in bulk, or buy it per weekly basis, and you get about $8. Then I have chicken breast, and it's about $5 per package of chicken breast, and one often lasts me 2 days worth of lunch. So 2 to 3 days worth of lunch. I buy 3 packages, and that gives me 4 chicken tenders per lunch. And I make sure to get the Never Any brand from Aldi's, once again, which is no antibiotics, it's no fillers, it's no things like that. And that really, already we're talking about $25, and that's 2 meals for an entire week. A lot of people spend $10 to $15 at Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast. A lot of people spend $8 on a fancy coffee from Starbucks. So these people who say, what about how overpriced it is to eat healthy? Misinformation. Complete lie. They try to tell you it's unhealthy. They try to tell you it's overpriced to eat healthy. I'm a living proof of this. It's a lie. That's 100% a lie. So I'm talking now about $5, $10, $15 in chicken, about $8 in eggs. So we're talking about $25 to $30 for 2 full meals for an entire week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is for one person, so it could get a little bit more. But once again, if you're going, like we went on a trip, and we got 1 breakfast sandwich each, and we didn't even get drinks. It was $32 from Dunkin' Donuts. She got 15 donuts or munchkins, like 25 munchkins. 15 donuts would be crazy.
That's a lot.
She got 25 munchkins. I got a breakfast sandwich.
But we all shared them.
I got a breakfast sandwich. Her mom got a breakfast sandwich, and it was $32.
No, and 2 hash browns.
Oh, and 2 hash browns. And it was $32, right? So, once again, don't put up with this lie that you can't do it on a budget. You absolutely can. And then I'll have either beef or ground turkey for dinner. And once again, I shop at Aldi, and the grass-fed organic beef that I buy is oftentimes $6 a pound, which is definitely on the pricier side. Once again, it's also because I buy 93% lean. And so the higher lean, better quality meat you're gonna buy, the more expensive. But once again, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. I would rather you be buying meat in and of itself than having what people traditionally will have. Now, the reason why people say it's expensive is because there's trade-offs. I'm having 1 single ingredient Whole Foods for a meal. So I'm not doing chicken with potatoes and vegetables and this sauce and that kind of stuff. I'm just having eggs and mozzarella with yogurt, and then chicken, just chicken, and then just lean ground beef or just lean ground turkey, right? So that's what I'm doing, but I make it work. And I just did a grocery haul for the week, and I got 3 meals for an entire week for $50. So if you can't make that work, there's things you can do. Maybe you can make 2 meals. Maybe you can plan for 2 meals and then get packaged processed things. But I just wanted to share that. I know it took a little bit. I wanted to share that just because it is really doable.
Yeah.
Now there's other things that you can go, and this kind of comes into where I take it a little bit because I truly enjoy, where I take animal organ capsules. And the reason that I do that is because, once again, I find people that I can build a level of trust based off of reviews. And I do it from, if you guys are interested in and just wanting to try it, because I'll be completely honest, when I started taking this supplement, it's animal organ. I'm not going to get into specifically what organs they are because I always get made fun of for it. But it's like liver and some things like that, and then other ones. And I noticed a huge increase in my energy. Huge. And the whole methodology behind it was that we're actually the weird ones in North America that we throw away all of like the excess fat, the excess liver and things like, the excess liver and the excess organs, and we only eat the fat and the muscle. And other tribes around the world who don't die off by like animals or things like that, they have a much more metabolically healthy life and lifespan than we do in America, and their prize foods are actually the liver of animals. And there's really cool science coming out now that shows eating the corresponding organ in another animal can actually heal and reverse issues that you have in your own organs. And it makes sense because God tells us that he gives us these animals. He gave us these animals. And so I also feel more comfortable knowing that I'm eating the entire animal nose to tail rather than just throwing away everything else but the fat and the muscle. So I go to a company, if you guys are wondering, a company you can trust. It's called Heart and Soil by a guy named Dr. Paul Saladino. And he has a company with protein powders. He has a company with protein powders, organ capsules, and it's really cool. He has capsules for women if they're having struggles with their cycles that have been shown to help ovarian cysts, that have been shown to help with processes and cycles and things like that.
Yeah, I've heard crazy stories about it helping like infertility issues.
Right. And they have things dedicated towards just general health. I choose the one that is whole package if you guys want to look up what's inside of that so you can make fun of me. But I do that, and then the only other thing that I do that I would say kind of is a little bit crazy, well, not crazy, is just honey. Just honey. And the reason I do honey is because it's a complex carbohydrate, so it's not a simple carbohydrate. It's made by God because these, depending on where you get it from, because it's from bees, and it's literally just bees doing what bees were meant to do, and it makes this amazing honey. And so I add that, and it's really good before workouts. It's really good if you're sick. I take it twice, once in the morning and once at night. I don't have to take any medicine when I'm sick at all because I do that. So yeah, just try. I focus on at least having 2 of my meals be something healthy, a healthy whole food, whether that's meat, whether that's eggs, whether that's poultry. And then on top of that, I add in organ capsules and honey. Yeah. So, and water. Just, I pound as much water as I possibly can. I just am always drinking water. So it's nothing crazy. And I feel great. I feel active. I feel like I can move well. I feel like I have great energy. My sleep is always good. I used to have lots and lots of trouble with sleep, and that's kind of regulated itself out to where maybe every once in a while, if I'm coming off a weekend where my sleep schedule doesn't have to be getting up from work, the first night back will be tough. But then the rest of the night, I'm in bed. I can sleep for 8 hours, right? And so, yeah, it works, and I feel great. And it also coincides with some of the fitness goals I have. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm at. Stevie, why don't you kind of end us off here with going into a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like?
Well, I was making funny faces at you.
The whole time I was like trying real hard.
Because I just can't. I don't like turkey. Sorry, guys. But when you said ground turkey, just plain ground turkey, that's crazy. But, you know, good. Go for it.
I have a confession.
What?
I put barbecue sauce on it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I thought you meant like
Right.
literally like dry
No,
turkey.
no. I'll do that with beef,
But
but I can't with turkey.
I was making funny faces because I'm like the complete opposite of Vinny. Like, I need something to be going with my food, not like something bad, like a sweet potato or like rice or something. But I definitely have a more balanced between the two diet.
Right.
I would love to say that I eat so good, but I'm a girl and I get cravings of sweet things, so I definitely have like, I would say it's pretty balanced between like good food and then not good food, processed food, which makes me feel like crap sometimes, most of the time. So I should just eat what you eat. But my dream, and you know, if you don't want to be budgeting, because budgeting's boring, you can also have this dream to have a homestead where you have all that, like the chicken,
Right.
the eggs, the beef, and you
So you could do
You do it all
vegetables and
yourself.
fruits also.
yeah. So I do the chickens part, and I do the garden. I have a big garden, and I'm gonna get meat chickens this spring, which I'm super excited for, to have like fresh chicken that's organic and like
Right.
all good. It will be interesting to see like the difference between it and stuff we buy at the grocery store. And it definitely is more work and more expensive, but I personally feel like it's worth it,
Right.
especially when I like eventually am having my own place, not on my parents' farm. But I just feel like when you know exactly what's going into the food you're eating, it's just so rewarding. My family did that with a couple turkeys a few years ago for Thanksgiving, and we were like really, really happy with the results. So we're gonna try it with chickens. You can do the same with beef too, which is super cool to be able to know, like I said, exactly what's going into it.
Right.
And little fun fact about honey that you mentioned: if you eat local honey, especially
That's what I
in the
meant to say.
spring and summer, it actually can help with seasonal allergies. So that's super cool.
Right.
And I would love to have bees too, but Vinny doesn't know about that. Vinny doesn't want to have bees.
We won't. We're not going to talk about that right now. That's what I meant to say. The type of honey that I buy is always is always raw organic.
Yeah.
I'm adamant about that. I'll spend the extra money to get organic, local, raw honey.
Yeah. And there's controversy about that, just like there's controversy about raw milk, but I think you can assume our position on that.
How many people died from vaccines last year? How many people died from raw milk last year? I rest my case.
Yeah. But anyway, that's some cool things.
Oops.
And then
so many subscribers just dropped.
So, kind of something I was thinking about from before you mentioned like what you eat on a daily basis. I was thinking a main way that you can tell if stuff is fake is to read ingredient labels.
Right.
So many times I fight a soy sensitivity at times, and so I for a while was trying to buy soy free stuff, and so many things will be labeled as soy free but then have like other things disguised.
A concentrate.
So
of
sunflower lecithin or lecithin in general, that's all soy. And so they can put soy free because it doesn't actually say soy in the ingredient list, but there are other things disguised in there. So I would definitely encourage you to read ingredient labels, and even like with meat too, sometimes it says like what actually is in the meat.
Fillers, coloring, water,
Yep.
sodium. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's why for my family right now, we don't have that much land, but like my dream is to be able to have enough land that I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And
But it is doable if you don't have that. So if you're sitting here and you're like, oh, of course, not everyone can have their whole farm.
Yeah.
Great advice from what you're saying is there is stuff that will just say lean ground beef on the back.
100%.
Ground turkey, organic chicken, right?
But I do encourage you all to get chickens
Yes.
because I do love my chickens. They're pretty cool. I have a lot of them, and I will probably get more in the spring.
Yeah.
Don't tell my dad that. But they are relatively inexpensive for what you can get out of them. And my chickens, I used to be able to say that they never stop laying because a lot of times people's chickens don't lay in the winter. This winter has been especially cold for long periods of time and snowy. So my chickens, unfortunately, aren't laying as much as they usually do. But in the past, they have laid throughout the winter. And so I was consistently getting about a dozen eggs a day, which was super cool. And I loved being able to give them to Vinny and my other family members too. And I know exactly what they eat. And also another super cool thing is that you can feed them your table scraps. And so I also like that it reduces food waste.
Mm-hmm.
And they love it. They love like little treats. So yeah,
awesome.
There's my pitch to you
Right.
on why you should get chickens.
And if you guys have a little bit more flexibility on a week-to-week or month-to-month food budget, I would also encourage adding in fruit.
Yeah.
I am much more scientifically and preference-wise a fruit guy over a vegetable guy, because if you do some research into vegetables, a lot of leafy greens can actually cause a buildup in excess micronutrients that lead to kidney stones. And then also plants have a very interesting thing called defense chemicals that doesn't affect everyone but can affect certain people and has caused people eczema, has caused people flare-ups and autoimmune disorders. So really develop this relationship where you can test and listen to how your body responds to something, because some people can have fruit and it would make them feel bad, where other people would have vegetables and it makes them feel bad. Some people can have vegetables, it'll make them feel good. Other people have vegetables, fruits, it'll make them feel good. Yeah. For me, I stick to fruits. And so what I would offer for you guys to start out with is just berries. Got blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. But then I built off of that to pineapple and kiwi. And so how my diet looked like when I had a little bit more flexibility, I'm trying to save for things like that. So I stick to just the whole food groups, and a lot of those micronutrients you actually get from more fat dense beef. So don't be afraid to get 80-20 beef, because that extra fat actually will have a lot more nutrients in it. But it looked like pineapples and blueberries in the morning with my eggs, and then for lunch I would have kiwi and strawberry. So that's another fun tidbit if you guys have a little bit more flexibility. But with that being said, I have no idea if my phone died and the camera cut off. I forgot to plug it in again. I really hope it didn't, because that would be aggravating.
That was 10 minutes ago. That's why I clicked my phone, because...
all right.
We gotta go. Sorry, guys. Oh, he's gonna check.
All right, we're good.
It's
okay,
still on.
Let's end off quick. Ready?
What?
Say, Vinny, I don't know if we're going to be able to work through this in a really serious face.
What? Vinny, I don't know if we're going to be able to work through this. Why did you make me say
so
that?
Good. It's so good. The trailer is gonna be amazing.
Okay. That was really clickbaity.
Guys, we're full core, hardcore sending the clickbaits.
Yep.
All right. With that being
And
said,
after this, we're going to get friendlies and not listen to our own advice.
guys, do you know what the beautiful thing about making sure you have the majority of your meals be healthy is? When you feel like getting a pizza, get pizza. When you feel like getting ice cream, get ice cream. Ask my family. I'll have every now and again, which I really actually am trying to avoid. Like, I'm really going to be adamant about cutting this out. But we'll get McDonald's. I love McDonald's. I love the way it tastes. But there's more and more stuff coming out.
We
about
saw a
that,
bad
and
video.
It's like it's pretty bad. But if I feel like a dessert, I'll have a dessert. If I feel like, but that's why I have at least breakfast and lunch, or breakfast and dinner, or dinner and lunch, or dinner and breakfast healthy, because it frees up room so that you're just being intentional about taking care of your body.
Yeah. I hope you be balanced about it.
Yes, Stevie helps me by every time we're together going, can we get pizza and ice cream? And okay, but this is actually one more thing that I wanted to add real quick is, if you are somebody who's more driven into health and longevity and fitness, it's really important that you don't shame. Like, for example, I don't shame Stevie, or I don't make her feel like she's less of a person because I'm more strict or intentional in certain areas with my diet than she is, because it's not one of those things that is a hill worth dying on. And it's also not one of those things where if she comes to me saying, hey, there's certain things that I want to help be a little bit better, then I'll always be able to help and offer advice and give advice for, hey, you can switch this and switch that. But I never am like going to her and being like, your diet's horrible, you're gonna be. So it's just don't do that to people if you're with someone, unless you really see them going downhill and you're like, hey, we got to start walking again. No, I'm just playing. I like to be an idiot sometimes. With that being said, that's all I have to say. So
yeah, I thought you were gonna say that. Actually, I thought you were gonna say, that's the good thing about having a girlfriend is she always wants to eat the bad food. I'm just kidding.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to work through that.
Sorry, it's just fun, like, to go and get snacks.
All right. We hope you guys enjoyed that episode.
But I really try to be healthy. Don't be fooled. I promise.
We had some great stuff. And with that being said...
Wow, you didn't defend me. You think I'm not healthy. He's going to tell me to start walking again.
That's going in the trailer. We'll see you guys next week.
No!